In 2021, a beautiful girl named Lena is walking with her mother, Polina, and we find out that her mother has many film studios that she inherited from her family. There are studios where war films are filmed and other studios for historical films. Lena goes with her mother during the shooting, and she is impressed by the actors' looks and their styles. Because of this, Lena tells her mother that her dream is to be an actress. Shortly after, Lena watches a shooting of a historical movie with her mother, and during the break, Polina tells her daughter to listen to her because one day she will inherit all the studios. Then, Polina says that everything that changed in her life started from these studios, but Lena asks her mother about what she means, so Polina tells her the story of her life before she was 12 years old. In 1998, Polina spent her entire childhood in the house of her aunt Varvara, but it was forbidden for her to go out anywhere or even play or see other children. Although she is raised with her aunt, no one tells her anything about her father and mother. Even when Polina asks about them, Varvara avoids answering it. One day, her cousin Dylan enters her room and asks her to be friends. Also, he gives her a wooden box and tells her that it has very important things for her. Polina remembers all times that Dylan hurt her and the times that he made fun of her, so she refuses his offer. But she takes the box from him, then opens the box excitedly and starts looking inside it. She finds some papers and photos of the studios with their address, also a picture of a man, but the photo is cut off, so she thinks that this may be her father. At this time, her aunt enters the room and sees the box. She shouts and calls out to Dylan because she ordered him to get rid of this box, but he didn't do what she said. So Polina tries to solve the problem and says that she took this box from Dylan's room, but her aunt throws the box in the fireplace and locks the door. Before the box is burnt, Polina takes the photo. The next day, Polina hears from her room, while Varvara talks to her son and tells him to find a solution before Polina becomes 18 years old. All the studios are owned by Polina at this time, so her aunt wants to sell the studios and take the money before Polina becomes 18 years old. Varvara and Dylan have a plan, which is to poison Polina and kill her, and they put this poison on her 12th birthday cake. But fortunately, Polina hears everything, so she runs away, although knows nothing other than the addresses of the studios that were in the box. Polina manages to go there. Meanwhile, Varvara opens Polina's room, but finds nothing, and fights with Dylan because he didn't lock the door properly. Then Varvara finds a paper on the floor with the addresses of the studios, and she knows that Polina will go there. She quickly calls the manager of the studio, Saul, asking him about Polina, and told him to arrest her. Meanwhile, Polina's father gets out of prison, and the government asks him to stay away from the studios and his daughter, and we find out that his name is Anton. At this time, Polina arrives at the studio and enters with a group of children who go inside. She finds herself with the children of her age, playing with and talking with them. But her happiness doesn't take long, because Saul goes to return her to her aunt. Polina sees him and runs away from there until she finds herself outside the studio. At this point, Dylan arrives with his driver to take her home. So Polina runs until she reaches the theater and locks herself in the door. Then, a hologram of an old man is shown to her. He tells her that he knows that she is looking for the missing part of the picture and wants to know the truth about her family, and says that everything will appear when the picture is complete. Then, Polina leaves the theater and walks until she finds herself in a filming location, but the place is full of tanks and flaming barrels. In the midst of all this, Polina enters a tank on the site to explore it and sees a part of the photo, which is a little girl, so Polina thinks that this may be her. Then she meets Sasha, the tank driver, and asks him where he got this photo. Sasha tells her that he took it from Cleo, a boy who studies in the music class. Polina leaves him and goes back to the studios again. She keeps walking until an old man stops her and asks what she is doing here. She lies and tells him that she is late for the music class, so he takes her to the classroom, but the teacher doesn't care about Polina because her goal is to make fun of their students. Polina is annoyed and she can't control herself, so she stops the teacher. Meanwhile, a boy sits at the piano and begins to play beautifully, so the teacher stops fighting and can't believe what she's listening. Polina knows that the boy who is playing is Cleo, so she asks him about the picture of her family. Then Cleo tells her that he replaced the photo with the fancy clothes he is wearing, but this person is dangerous, and Polina shouldn't go to him alone. At this time, Anton arrives at Varvara's house, to find out where his daughter is, but she tells him without caring that Polina has run away. So Anton leaves her and goes to the driver. Anton beats him until he admits that Polina is in the studio. After that, he takes the car and goes to the studio, and there, he asks about his daughter while he is nervous. But Saul tells him that they are looking for her and tells Anton that if he sees her, he will talk to him quickly. Meantime, Polina and Cleo enter a boxing hall and get to know a girl named Ivanka there. But when Ivanka takes from Cleo the rest of the picture, she tells them that she gave the picture to Joe, a man who is training with her, but says that it will not be easy for them to return it. Then they go to take the picture, but Joe refuses to give them the picture unless someone beats him in boxing, and Ivanka agrees to wrestle him. At first, she can hit him easily, but Joe then beats her, and he is about to win the fight. But Sasha, the soldier who was in the tank, appears and decides to help Polina and her friends. So Joe loses the fight, and he shows the rest of the picture it is Polina's mother, but there is still an incomplete part in the picture. After that, Polina and her friends take Joe to the hospital because he is injured shortly after. Joe writes to Polina that the picture reminds him of the princess he loves. We find out that Joe was one of the Vikings, and he was looking for their princess, the king's daughter, so Polina tells him that she will help him. After that, Joe enters one of the hospital rooms, but one of the Vikings is hiding in a hole, and she asks him where he was all these years. She tells him that the king needs an antidote because the poison spreads in his body, and soon it will kill him. Then Polina and her friends walk from the hospital and go to the studio where the scientific experiments are. There, Sasha and Polina ask the scientist to give them the antidote that will treat the king. The scientist prepares the antidote and gives it to Sasha, but it somehow turns into a frog. Also, Ivanka turns into a teapot after playing with the chemical compounds. The scientist can't make the antidote until Cleo intervenes and starts mixing the chemical compounds together and succeeds in getting Sasha and Ivanka to their normal again. As for Joe, this mixture hides his facial injuries, so he knows that this antidote will be good for his king. Before they leave the lab, Polina takes out the picture that she has and asks the scientist if he can help them collect the rest of the parts. Meanwhile, he takes the photo from Polina and puts it in a magic chemical compound. Then, the rest of the picture appeared, but it is clear that Polina has a younger brother. After that, Polina keeps away from her friends and thinks about this picture all the time and about her brother who suddenly appeared. Then, Polina runs quickly until she finds a door before her and enters the Viking world, and there she reaches the king with Joe, and they give him the antidote. The king returns to the throne and goes away from his wife, who betrayed and poisoned him to be a queen. Meanwhile, the king's daughter rewards Polina for treating her father and getting him back to the kingdom, so she gives Polina a chance to see her dead mother one last time. Polina's mother says that she and her little brother died because of the fire 8 years ago. This fire destroyed the studios and changed the future of the whole family, but her brother returns to help her, and we find out that her brother is Cleo. Also, her mother tells her that her father is innocent, and she asks Polina to leave the Vikings and go to save her father. After that, we find out that all the scenes in the world of the Vikings aren't real, and that everything that happened was a product of Polina's imagination, and she improvised it all. The audience thinks that Polina is an actress until she comes off the stage, and the children hug her. Meanwhile, her father and Dylan arrive at the theater, and after that, the police and Varvara enter. She starts shouting to the police to arrest Anton and says that he wants to steal them. At this moment, the same hologram turns on again and says that he will show the truth to all. 8 years ago, Varvara tried to convince her sister to sell the studio, but her sister refused, and Varvara ordered Dylan and Saul to set a fire on the studio. But because of this fire, Polina's mother and her brother died. Anton was the first accused in this incident, and actually he was imprisoned. Now the police release Anton and go to arrest Varvara and her son. Polina asks her father if Cleo can live with them because he doesn't have a family, and her father happily accepts. After all, Polina lives with her father and inherits the studios when she grows up. After Lena is listening to her mother's story, she decides to live this adventure again. She goes to her mother's first studio, which Polina entered at the beginning of her story. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
Back in my bag and I gotta brag, I do this shit for real. When we was down and we had nothing, we had to share a meal. We put the shit in overdrive with no steering wheel.